Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Hey, yo, it's another episode of Outlaws and Gunslingers with your host, Bang and Dang, and we have a big one for you guys today. The old Columbine massacre, school shooting, whatever you want to call it. Probably the beginning, right?
Oh.
School shootings. Not the beginning, but I would say everybody marks this as
the start of a trend.
Right, the start of a trend that would only continue and get worse. As far as body counts and some of these later ones, we'll be covering those too. Don't worry. But figure if we're going to start or do some school shootings, just start at the school shooting, I guess, right? Collectively referred to by everybody as, all the rest are that he pulled a Columbine. I'm going to pull a Columbine. And some,
Right.
That's the standards of people.
Trench coat mafia.
Right. It was a big deal when it happened, obviously, and still a big deal as coming up on the 24th anniversary of that, 23rd anniversary. 23 years ago. Crazy.
It was pretty great.
And the surveillance camp footage and all that stuff. I mean, the nation was gripped by this,
What do you expect, man? What do you expect?
April 20th, 1999, Columbine High School. 12th graders Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold murdered 12 students, one teacher. 10 students were killed in the library where the Harris and Klebold subsequently committed suicide. Which their death photos are all over the internet, and crazy stuff they were doing, which we'll get into here, especially in the library. This one's probably going to be a little graphic as well, because a lot of details of the killings. So I guess we'll get right into it. Old Eric David Harris, born April 9th, 1981, Wichita, Kansas. His parents were both born and raised in Colorado, though. His mother, Catherine Ann Poole, was a homemaker. His father, Wayne Harris, was working in the United States Air Force as a transport pilot. The family moved a lot. 83, the family moved to Dayton, Ohio when Harris was 2, and then 6 years later, they relocated to Oscoda, Michigan.
Dang.
Boo.
We had a psycho in Oscoda, Michigan, huh?
Boo. Well, we also had, what is it with the Colorado people in Michigan? John Bonet's parents owned a thing in Charlevoix.
Mm-hmm. Michigan pastor William Stone lived across the street from the Harris family while they were located in Oscoda. Stone recalled Oscoda as almost by the bridge, about halfway. Just on the shores of Lake Huron, if people want to know.
Well, it's a little more of halfway, but 3/4 of the way, maybe.
Stone recalled them as great neighbors and often saw Wayne very engaged with his sons.
Oh,
He's whooping the shit out of him. Oh, look at him playing with the boys.
He's so engaged.
They like to wrestle a lot.
With a belt.
The Harris's family then moved to Plattsburgh, New York in 1991. Dang, here's everywhere.
All right.
During his tenure at Stafford Middle School, Harris played Little League Baseball, regularly went to birthday parties, was part of the crowd, quote unquote.
That'd be a problem.
Kyle Ross, a former classmate of Harris, said he was just a typical kid.
Aren't they all?
The Harris family finally settled back in Colorado the next year, and Wayne retired from the military.
Retire and let's go to Colorado. 97.
Let's go home.
Right, let's go home. In 97, on an English class assignment, Harris wrote about how difficult the move was from New York to Colorado. He said it was the hardest moving from Plattsburgh. I have the most memories from there. Harris continued, when I left, felt alone, lost, and even agitated that I had spent so much time with him, and now I have to go because of something I can't stop.
Right.
Ooh, resentment. No. Harris, in a basement tape, which we'll get to, blamed his father for moving the family around, forcing Harris to start out at the bottom of the ladder.
Every time.
And Harris had a chest deformity known as pectus excavatum, in which the breastbone sinks into the chest. So he was like sunken in chest. Huh?
Yeah.
Well,
right. He would have been teased with the shirt off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this made Harris reluctant to take his shirt off in gym class as other students ridiculed him. Bastards. Harris had 2 cosmetic surgeries at the age of 12 and 13 to repair the deformity. The sunken chest was still mildly observable during his autopsy.
Okay.
The Harris family lived in rented accommodations for the first 3 years that they lived in Littleton area. While Harris was in 7th grade, he met Klebold. In 1996, the Harris family purchased and settled at a house south of Columbine High School. Harris's brother, Kevin, his older brother, attended a college at the University of Colorado. Harris's father took a job with the Flight Safety Services Corporation, and Harris's mother, a former homemaker, became a caterer. Oh, look at that. She's like, it's time for me to get on the work field.
She's like, I've been cooking for 20 years. I might as well get paid for it, right?
Damn right.
Harris entered Columbine.
He was like, I've been flying for years, and I might as well get paid
for my expertise.
Get paid more than what the Army was.
Probably. Flight Safety Services Corporation, probably. Yeah. Harris entered Columbine High School in 95 as a freshman, obviously. Columbine had just gone through a major renovation and expansion. From all accounts, he had many friends. Was left forward and midfield. He was a left forward and midfield on the Columbine soccer team for his freshman and sophomore year. Pretty normal kid so far, huh? Right. According to one of his teammates, Josh Swanson, he said Harris was a solid soccer player who enjoyed the sport. During his freshman year, Harris met Tiffany Teifer.
Another high school sweetheart.
High school.
They had German class together. Teifer later recounted that Harris quickly wooed her. Harris asked her to go to homecoming, and she accepted. Oh, yeah. After the event, it appeared that Teifer was no longer interested in seeing Harris anymore. I wonder why. For reasons never disclosed. Maybe he got a little touchy-feely. No. When Teifer refused to socialize with Harris again.
What the hell happened here?
Harris staged a fake suicide.
Oh, jeez.
Dang. Sprawling on the ground with fake blood splashed all over him.
What in the hell?
When Teifer saw him, she began to scream for help, at which point Harris and his friends began laughing, prompting Teifer to storm off, shouting at Harris to get psychological help. Stupid. You need help. You need help. Get help, you weirdo.
Okay, well, doing pretty weird things already here, huh? I can turn real quick. Girls will do that to you, I guess, huh? So. On the other hand, Dylan Bennett Klebold was born September 11th, 1981, in Lakewood, Colorado, to Thomas and Sue Klebold. The day after the shooting, Klebold's mother remembered that shortly after Klebold's birth, she described what felt like a shadow had been cast over her, warning her that her child would bring her great sorrow.
Oh,
well, geez.
I am a child of great sorrow.
She said, I think I still make of what I did at the time. It was a passing feeling that went over very quickly, like a shadow.
Oh.
Sue said in an interview with Colorado Public Radio. Klebold was soon diagnosed with pyloric stenosis, a condition in which the opening between the stomach and small intestines thickens, causing severe vomiting during the first few months of her life.
Jeez, man.
What's up with these two?
Right. Deformities and shit. Right. It's crazy stuff. Klebold's parents had met when they were both studying at Ohio State University. Boo! After they both graduated, they married in 1971, with their first child, Byron, being born in 1978. Damn, 7 years later.
Byron, right.
Thomas had initially worked as a sculptor, but then moved over to engineering to be more financially stable.
Yeah, I don't think sculpting is going to get you anything.
He's like, babe, I really like sculpting, but this engineering stuff seems to be making us some money.
All right.
Sue had worked in assistant services with disabled children. Furthermore, Klebold's parents were pacifists, attended a Lutheran church with their children. Oh, look at these guys. Both they couldn't make the full pledge to Catholic.
Right. Right. They're like, well, just do Catholic light.
Right. Both Klebold and his older brother attended confirmation classes in accordance with the Lutheran tradition.
All right. Church boy. As had been the case with his older brother, Klebold was named after a renowned poet, Dylan Thomas. Okay. At the family home, the Klebolds also observed some rituals in keeping with the Klebold's maternal grandfather's Jewish heritage. Klebold attended Normandy Elementary School for first and second grade, and then transferred to Governor's Ranch Elementary School, Colorado for you, where he was part of the Challenging High Intellectual Potential Students program, for gifted children. According to reports, he was exceptionally bright as a young child, although he appeared somewhat sheltered in elementary school.
Uh-oh.
He's the problem. Huh?
Right. When he transitioned to Ken Carroll Middle School, he found it very difficult. Fellow classmates recalled Klebold being painfully shy and quiet.
Painfully.
So the other guy is
outgoing, a group of friends, and played on soccer and
faked suicide from his first love, which is understandable, I guess.
No.
And they said he was often quite uncomfortable at sometimes.
Wow.
Klebold's parents were unconcerned with the fact that Klebold found the changing of schools uneasy, as they assumed it was just regular behavior among young adolescents. He'll grow out of it.
Right.
During his early school years, Klebold played baseball, soccer, and he played t-ball. Look at that, back in elementary.
Right. Right. Still in middle school.
Klebold was in Cub Scouts with friends Brooks Brown. Dang, that's a hell of a name.
Brooks Brown. He had to become a country singer.
Right. And that was his friend since first grade. Brown lived near the house Harris's parents had bought when they finally settled in Littleton, and rode the same bus as Harris.
Good for him. Shortly after Klebold had met Harris, and the pair quickly became best friends. Later, Harris introduced Klebold to his friend Nathan Dykeman, who also attended their middle school, and they all became a tight-knit group of friends.
Dang.
1996, 15-year-old Eric Harris created a private website on America Online, AOL. It was initially to host levels, which is WADs. I don't know what that is. Harris created for use, for the first-person shooter video games Doom and Doom 2, as well as Quake. On the site, Harris began a blog. It included details about Harris sneaking out of the house to cause mischief and vandalism, such as lighting fireworks with his friend Dylan and others. Oh,
jeez. Beginning in early 1997, the blog postings began to show the first signs of Harris's anger against society. By the end of the year, the site contained instructions on how to make explosives.
Well,
Harris's site attracted few visitors and caused no concern until August of 1997. Harris ended a big blog detailing murderous fantasies with, "All I want to do is kill and injure as many of you as I can, especially a few people like Brooks Brown."
What the hell?
What the hell did Brown do?
What the hell? I thought he was, he's Dylan's friend, right?
Yeah,
it was Dylan's friend. He was jealous of him.
Oh.
What the heck, dude?
All right. Brown was a classmate of his, obviously.
Right.
After Brown's parents reviewed the site, they contacted the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office on the 7th of August, 1997, just before school started, probably. Unless Colorado goes year-round.
Not in 97.
An investigator wrote a draft affidavit to request a search warrant for the Harris household, but it was never submitted to a judge. Why?
So here we go.
Why?
The cops are already on to these guys, and what do you know? 1998, January 30th, Harris and Klebold were arrested for breaking into a white van parked near Littleton and stealing tools and computer equipment. They would subsequently attend a joint court hearing where they pled guilty to the felony theft. Judge sentenced them to a juvenile diversion program. As a result, both attended mandatory classes such as anger management and talked with diversion officers.
Right.
Both were eventually released from diversion several weeks early because of positive actions and put on probation.
Oh, look at that shit. They knew how to
say what they wanted to hear, I guess. Huh?
Wow. Even put through the system and it failed.
Surprise.
Shortly after the court hearing for the van break-in, Harris reverted his website back to just hosting user-created levels of Doom. Maybe he tried. He's like, you know what?
Right.
Try to be good, but let's keep on playing the game where I'm shooting.
Right.
He began to write his thoughts down in a journal instead.
There you go, bud.
In both of these journals, Harris and Klebold would later plot the attack.
Okay.
Soon after beginning his journal, Harris typed out one plan of attack, which included, after the massacre, possibly escape into a foreign country. This guy has big dreams,
man.
Or hijacking an aircraft at the Denver International Airport and crashing into New York City.
Well, maybe that's where they got the idea, huh? The government was like, "Hey, good idea, Dylan."
Dang. Klebold had already been keeping a personal journal since March of 1997. As early as November of that year, Klebold had mentioned going on a killing spree.
Jeez, dude.
Man.
Even if you think it, why would you write it down? Klebold had used his journal to vent about his personal problems as well as what he'd wear and use during the attack.
Oh, no.
Harris also made entries on topics such as his sexuality on his journal, where he described the desire for sex with women, especially his desire of raping and torturing them in his bedroom.
Oh, geez, this guy is a freaking sociopath.
Oh, and he ain't done, because he also expressed interest in cannibalism.
No.
And stated that he would like to dismember a woman whom he could have sex with.
Jeez, and then eat her?
I guess.
Oh, my.
Jeez, dude.
It's taking a turn for the worse here. I don't think I've ever read the background on these kids.
No.
December of 1997, Harris wrote a paper on school shootings titled Guns in School.
Oh, jeez.
And a poem from the perspective of a bullet.
That's cool.
That'd be interesting.
Right. That's cool.
I mean, we had the video with the bullet with corn.
All right.
That was decent. Klebold wrote a short story about a man killing students, which worried his teacher so much that she alerted his parents. No freaking shit.
Both have also actively searched war and murder. Don't find my history. What is this dude doing? For one project, Harris wrote a paper on the Nazis, and Klebold wrote a paper on Charles Manson.
Oh, geez.
In psychology class, Harris wrote that he dreamed of going on a shooting spree with Klebold.
It's psychology class. You think the teacher would have a little
right. Harris's journals describe several experimental bomb detonations. A year before the massacre, Klebold wrote a message in Harris's 98 yearbook that says, "Killing enemies, blowing up stuff, killing cops.
Dang.
My wrath for January's incident will be godlike, not to mention our revenge in the Commons." The Commons was slang for the school cafeteria. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this dude wrote that in his yearbook.
Yeah. January's incident, too, so they planned on doing it before.
Dang.
Wow.
Harris and Klebold were both enrolled in video production classes and kept 5 videotapes that were recorded with school video equipment. Only 2 of these, Hitmen for Hire and Rampart Range, and part of a third known as Radioactive Clothing, have been released. The remaining 3 tapes detail their plans and reason for the massacre, including the ways they hid their weapons to deceive their parents. Most of these were shot in Harris's family's basement, and thus known as the basement tapes.
The basement tapes. 30 minutes before the attack, they made a final video saying goodbye and apologizing to their friends and families.
When an economics class had Harris make an ad for a business, he and Klebold made a video called Hitmen for Hire on the 8th of December, 1998, which was released on February 2004. Really? Why so long?
Well, release it to the public.
Right. It depicts them as part of the Trench Coat Mafia, a clique in the school who wore black trench coats, obviously, extorting money for protecting preps from bullies. So wouldn't they in turn be bullies?
Yeah.
They were apparently not a part of the Trench Coat Mafia, though, but were friends with some of its members. They wanted to be. They wanted these. They wore black trench coats on the day of the massacre, and the video seemed kind of a dress rehearsal, showing them walking the halls of the school and shooting bullies outside with fake guns.
And they just let them do this in the school when they were already concerned about them.
I mean, everything freaking pointed to this happening.
What a bunch of idiots, dude. On October 21st, 2003, a video was released showing the target practice on March 6th of 99 in nearby foothills known as Rampart Range with the weapons they would use in the massacre. Before the massacre, Harris left a micro cassette labeled Nixon on the kitchen table. On it, Harris said, "It is less than 9 hours now," placing the recording at sometime around 2:30 a.m. He went on to say, "People will die because of me, and it will be a day that will be remembered forever."
I think they
right about that one.
Planned on killing themselves too, or
don't know. Would assume so, right?
Right. In the months prior to the attack, Harris and Klebold acquired 2 9mm firearms and 2 12-grade shotguns, which I don't know how.
Right.
Harris had a High Point 995 carbine with 13 10-round magazines and a Savage Springfield 67H pump-action shotgun. Klebold used a 9mm Intertech Tech 9 semi-automatic handgun. You guys all know about the Tech 9s. With 152, 132, and 128-round magazine. And a Stevens 311D double-barreled shotgun. Dang, that shotgun be scurry. Harris' shotgun was sawed off around 26 inches, and Klebold shortened his shotgun's length to 23 inches, which is a felony.
I don't think they're concerned with the length of their barrels, dude.
Shit, I shot mine too short. Now this is gonna be a felony.
Damn it. November 22nd, 1998, their friend Robin Anderson purchased a carbine rifle and the 2 shotguns for the pair at the Tanner Gun Show. Wow. And as they were too young to legally purchase them, obviously, after the attack, she told investigators she had believed the pair wanted the items for target shooting and denied that she had any prior acknowledgement or knowledge of their plan. Anderson was not charged. Yeah, I mean,
Harris and Klebold both held part-time jobs at a local Blackjack Pizza. Through Philip Duran, a co-worker, Klebold bought a Tech 9 handgun from Mark Maines for $500 at another gun show on January 23rd. So he had that now. Maines' girlfriend, and Duran are all in a Rampart Range video. After the massacre, well, these guys are just shooting guns. Like, yeah, right?
Yeah.
After the massacre, Maines and Duran were both prosecuted.
Okay.
Each was charged with supplying a handgun to a minor in possession of a sawed-off shotgun. Ooh, that's the one right there. Maines and Duran.
They didn't saw it off. They clearly just said Klebold did.
Right. Maines and Duran were sentenced to a total of 6 years and 4.5 years in prison.
Damn.
Respectively. So Maines got 6 and the girl got 4.5.
Wow. Philip Duran is the guy. Mark Maines.
Oh, the other guy.
Right.
Not Maines' girlfriend.
Nope. Wow. Okay. In addition to the firearms, the complex and highly planned attack involved several improvised explosive devices or IEDs. Harris and Klebold constructed a total of 99 of them. Dang. He said, "I got 99 bombs, but something."
But and a fuse ain't one.
Right. These included pipe bombs, carbon dioxide cartridges filled with gunpowder called crickets, Molotov cocktails, and propane tanks converted to bombs.
Jeez. The
propane bombs are used in the cafeteria, in their cars, and in another location as a diversion. For ignition, they use storm matches, cannon fuses, and model rocket igniters, as well as timing devices built from mechanical alarm clocks for the propane bombs.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to be
near them. You don't want to be in the way when my propane bomb goes off.
During the massacre, they carried match strikers taped to their forearms for easy ignition of the pipe bombs and CO2 bombs. Harris also experimented with napalm and envisioned a kind of backpack and flamethrower. Oh, jeez. They both attempted to get another friend and co-worker, Chris Morris, who was a part of the Trenchcoat Mafia, to keep the napalm at his house. And he's like, nah, dude. I can keep that at my house, bro. I mean, I'll wear the trench coat and all that good stuff, but I'm not doing that.
Right.
Harris also tried to recruit him to be a third shooter. He's like, well, if you don't do that,
you want to go kill some people with me?
I got some more guns. I'm like, nah, dude.
Jeez.
He's like, you're joking, right? He's like, yeah,
man, I was fucking with you. What you talking about?
But they weren't.
Jeez. Harris's website contained instructions on making pipe bombs and Molotovs and the extensive use of shrapnel.
Oh.
Harris's father once discovered one of his pipe bombs. Okay.
Oh.
Harris's journal logged the creation of 25 of them. Klebold scared his coworkers by once bringing a pipe bomb into work. Jeez.
So
What is it? These guys are doing all this stuff and nobody's saying nothing.
All right, you can tell me his dad's gonna find a pipe bomb and be like, "What's this? Oh, just a pipe bomb, Dad."
Just a pipe bomb, nothing big.
Don't play with it around the house.
They would give various nicknames to their pipe bombs.
Oh,
after the massacre, 2 pipe bombs had been left in Klebold's bedroom, one named Vengeance and another Atlanta, presumably after the Olympic Park bombing, which we did an episode on.
We did. FBI really screwed over that guy.
Yeah.
And the media really screwed over that guy.
Yeah. Cheeseburgers really screwed over that guy.
It's true. They had in their possession 8 propane tanks, all converted into bombs. The weekend before the shooting, Harris and Klebold bought 2 propane tanks and other supplies from a hardware store. They bought 6 propane tanks on the morning of the attack.
Jeez.
Harris was caught on a Texaco gas station security camera at about 9:12 a.m. buying a Blue Rhino propane tank.
Ooh, bad press, Blue Rhino.
Yeah. Both cafeteria bombs included a single. They had on each of their cans. No, we did not support.
Right. Do not turn into a bomb.
Right. Both cafeteria bombs included a 20-pound tank, attached pipe bombs, and supporting gasoline canisters alongside. Oh, jeez.
Both car bombs were made from 2 20-pound propane tanks, pipe bombs, and various containers filled with gas as well.
Man.
8 pipe bombs were placed in Klebold's car and 1 in Harris's. Harris and Klebold were both equipped with knives, but investigators do not believe they ever utilized them.
Right.
Harris had a boot knife on his belt and a Kiefer Pass machete Bowie knife taped to the back of his ankle.
That'd be rough.
Both had an R referencing Harris's alibi or alias Reb.
Nice.
Okay, etched into the handle.
Rib.
And the machete had a swastika on the sheath.
Oh, jeez.
Klebold had a Cobra knife mounted to his belt on the left side, as well as a switchblade in his right pocket.
The old switchblade. He's like, what you got? Just a standard switchblade, bud. Fast and accurate and does its job. According to the shooter's respective journals and videotapes, it is believed by investigators that the pair intended to detonate their propane bombs in the cafeteria at the busiest lunch hour. I mean,
right.
It makes sense if they're planning on killing people, which would kill hundreds of students.
Well, they just do the whole pull the fire alarm trick.
Right.
You had thousands students pouring out of entrances, dude.
Not in the cafeteria.
But I'm saying they could have just stood outside.
After this, they would shoot and stab.
We are not liable for anything that happens.
After this, they would shoot and stab survivors, as well as lob bombs. Bombs set in their cars in the parking lot would eventually detonate, hopefully, killing more students, as well as possibly any police officers, paramedics, firemen, or reporters who had come to the school. Dang, these guys. However, this failed to occur since the bombs in the cafeteria and cars failed to detonate. Dude, imagine. That would have been some sad stuff here.
Yeah. Several official sources claim they planned to shoot the fleeing survivors from the parking lot, but moved to the staircase on the hill at the west side of the school when the bombs failed. Other sources claim the top of the staircase where the massacre began was their preferred spot to wait for the bombs to go off all along.
Oh.
Tuesday morning, April 20th, 1999. Harris and Klebold placed 2 duffel bags in the cafeteria. Nobody noticed.
Right.
Each bag containing propane bombs set to detonate during the A lunch shift, which would begin at 11:15 a.m. No witness recalled seeing the duffel bags being added to the 400 or so backpacks that were already in the cafeteria.
Jeez.
Security staff at CHS did not observe the bags being placed in the cafeteria. Custodian was replacing the school security videotape at around 11:14. Conveniently.
Oh, jeez, of course.
Right. Shortly after the massacre, police speculated the bombs were placed during this tape change. Did they know that that's when it gets changed?
I'm sure, right? Had to. They also investigated whether the bombs were placed during the after prom party held the prior weekend.
Nobody knew it okay, they couldn't. They're just there for a whole week.
I doubt that. Some internet sleuths claim the bomb placement can be seen on the surveillance camera video at around 10:58 a.m. Harris and Klebold are seen in the tapes planting the bombs in casual school clothes separately. Jefferson County Sheriff's Deputy Neil Gardner was assigned to the high school as a full-time school resource officer. Gardner usually ate lunch with the students in the cafeteria, but on the 20th of April, guess what?
Right.
I'm going to eat mine in my patrol car, northwest corner of the campus, far as away as possible.
Right.
Watching students in the smoker's pit. Jeez, in Clement Park, a meadow adjacent to the school.
Jeez.
Oh, you just watch them, I guess.
18-year-olds can't do nothing about it.
If they're 18.
Right. Whatever. 2 backpacks filled with pipe bombs, aerosol canisters, and small propane bombs were also placed in a field about 3 miles south of Columbine High School and 2 miles south of the fire station. The bombs were intended as a diversion to draw firefighters and emergency personnel away from the school. Only the pipe bombs and one of the aerosol canisters detonated, causing a small fire, which was quickly extinguished by the fire department.
Oh, jeez.
It went off after first having been moved. Jeez.
What?
Bomb technicians immediately examined the bombs and relayed to police at the school the possibility of devices with motion activators.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. Well, Harris and Klebold changed clothes and returned separately to the high school. Harris parked his vehicle in junior student parking lot. Klebold parked his in adjoining senior parking lot. The school cafeteria was the primary bomb target. Cafeteria had a long outside window wall, ground level doors, and was just north of the senior parking lot. The library was located above the cafeteria in the second story of the window wall. Each car contained bombs, as we said before. As Harris pulled into the parking lot, he encountered classmate Brooks Brown. That damn Brooks Brown. Is Harris the one that wants him?
Yeah.
Yeah. With whom he had recently patched up a long-standing series of disputes. Hey, bud. You're lucky. Hey, today's your lucky day, old Brooks.
Brookie.
Brooks
Well,
Brown.
according to Brown, who was smoking a cig, he was surprised to see Harris, whom he early noted had been absent from a class test. Brown berated Harris for missing the test. Harris, acting unconcerned, replied, "It doesn't matter anymore." Harris went on, "Brooks, I like you now. Get out of here. Go home." Brown, feeling uneasy and already prepared to skip the next class anyways. All right.
He was like, really, dude? All right.
He walked away down South Pear Street. Jeez. Meanwhile, Harris and Klebold armed themselves using straps and webbing to conceal weapons beneath their trench coats.
I guarantee you that Harris dude told Brooks way more than just, I like you now. Get out of here. Go home.
I doubt it.
He was probably like, dude, I'm about to fuck these niggas up.
Maybe. Maybe. I doubt it, though.
He's like, dude, I'm about to mess this dude's up in here. You might not want to be here. I mean, I guess if he wasn't going to kill him, he'd be like, you want to watch, bud?
No, I don't.
You want to check this shit out? Brown's like, you know what? I can handle missing health class. I'm out. Sorry, guys. This ain't hilarious, but what are you going to do?
Right.
They lugged bags containing bombs and ammunition. Harrison concealed his shotgun in one of the bags. Beneath the trench coats, Harris wore a military bandolier and a white T-shirt with the inscription, Natural Selection, in black letters. Klebold wore a black T-shirt with Wrath in red letters.
Oh.
The cafeteria bombs failed to detonate.
Mm-hmm.
Had these explosives detonated as intended, they would have killed or severely wounded 488 students and damaged the school structure, collapsing the library into the cafeteria. Holy shit, dude. That would have been massive.
Yeah.
Wow.
At 11:19 a.m., 17-year-old Rachel Scott and her friend Richard Castaldo were having lunch and sitting on the grass next to the west entrance of the school. Klebold threw a pipe bomb towards the parking lot. The bomb only partially detonated, causing it to give off smoke. Castaldo thought it was no more than a crude senior prank.
Right.
Likewise, several students during the incident first thought that they were watching a prank.
Right.
A witness reported hearing, "Go, go," before Klebold and Harris pulled their guns from beneath their trench coats and began shooting.
Scott was killed instantly when she was hit 4 times with the rounds fired from Harris's carbine. One shot was to the left temple. Dang. Castaldo was shot 8 times in chest, arm, abdomen by both Harris and Klebold. He fell unconscious to the ground and was left paralyzed below the chest.
Wow.
After firing twice, Klebold's Tech 9 jammed, and he was forced to temporarily cease shooting to fix it, which he did by reloading a new clip into his pistol. Meanwhile, Harris took off his trench coat and aimed his carbine down the west staircase into the direction of 3 students, Daniel Robro, Sean Graves, Lance Kirkland. The students figured they were paintball guns. I'm like, oh, they don't get this is a new shirt.
Right.
And we're about to walk up to the staircase directly below the shooters. Harris fired 10 times, killing Robbo while injuring Graves and Kirkland. William David Sanders, a teacher and coach at the school, was in the cafeteria when he heard the gunfire and began warning students.
Harris turned west, fired 7 shots in the direction of 5 students sitting on the grassy hillside adjacent to the steps and opposite the west entrance of the school.
Why are they still sitting there?
Right.
They can't hit a bullet?
Maybe not. Michael Johnson was hit in the face, leg, and arm, but ran and escaped.
Dang, hit in the face?
Mark Taylor was shot in the chest, arms, and leg and fell to the ground where he faked death, and the other 3 escaped uninjured. Klebold walked down the steps toward the cafeteria. He first shot once at the body of Dan Rohrbaugh with a shotgun, and then, shot him again after he was already dead.
What the hell?
Then came up to Lance Kirkland, who was already wounded and lying on the ground, weakly calling for help. Klebold said, "Sure, I'll help you," then shot Kirkland in the jaw with a shotgun. Although near fatally injured, Kirkland would survive.
What?
Dude, wow.
How?
I don't know. Shotgun to the face.
Right. Dude. Graves, paralyzed beneath the waist, had crawled into the doorway of the cafeteria's west entrance and collapsed. He rubbed his blood on his face and played dead. After shooting Kirkland, Klebold walked towards the cafeteria door. He then stopped over the injured Graves to enter the cafeteria. Graves remembers Klebold saying, "Sorry, dude."
Wow.
Klebold only briefly entered the cafeteria and did not shoot at several people still inside. Officials speculated that Klebold went to check on the propane bombs. Harris was still on top of the stairways shooting, and severely wounded and partially paralyzed 17-year-old Anne Mary Hochhalter as she tried to flee. Poor Anne Marie, she didn't get it.
No, Klebold came out of the cafeteria and went back up the stairs to join Harris. They each shot once at students standing close to a soccer field, but did not hit anyone. They walked towards the west entrance, throwing pipe bombs in several directions, including onto the roof.
Jeez.
Only a few of these would detonate. Witnesses heard one of them say, "This is what we always wanted to do. This is awesome."
Jeez, oh, Pete.
It's crazy.
Well, meanwhile, art teacher Patty Nielsen was inside the school. She had noticed the commotion and walked toward the west entrance with student Brian Anderson. She's like, "What is that? It sounds like popping."
Right.
Nielsen had intended to walk outside to tell the students, "Knock it off," thinking they were either filming a video or pulling a student prank. As say pranks, they don't do that no more.
Right.
No pranks. That's his probably
right. Yeah, exactly.
As Anderson opened the first set of double doors, the gunman shot out the windows, injuring him with a flying glass.
Wow.
So at least he didn't get shot, but he got the old glass in him. Nielsen was hit in the shoulder with shrapnel. Anderson and Nielsen ran back down the hall into the library.
No, don't go there.
Nielsen alerted the students inside to the danger, telling them to get under desk. No, get the hell out of there.
What the hell is getting under desk going to do?
Right. Keep silent. Well, Nielsen dialed 911 and hid under the library's administration counter. Anderson fell to the floor, bleeding from his injuries, then hid inside the magazine room adjacent to the library.
11:22 a.m., a custodian called Deputy Neil Gardner, the assigned resource officer to Columbine on the school radio, requesting assistance in the senior parking lot. The only paved route took him around the school to the east and south on Pear Street, where at 11:23 a.m., he heard on his police radio that a female was down and assumed she had been struck by a car. While exiting his patrol car in the senior lot at 11:24, he heard another call on the school radio. "Neil, there's a shooter in the school."
Oh, geez. What did Neil do? Freeze up?
Probably.
Harris at the west entrance immediately turned and fired 10 shots from his carbine at Gardner, who was 60 yards away. That's pretty far. As Harris reloaded his carbine, Gardner leaned over the top of his car and fired 4 rounds at Harris from his service pistol. Harris ducked back behind the building. He's like, "Oh, all right."
Got some return fire here.
And Gardner momentarily believed that he had hit him. He's like, "All right." Harris then reemerged and fired at least 4 more rounds at Gardner, which missed and struck 2 parked cars. Before retreating to the building, he's like, "All right." No one was hit during the exchange of gunfire. Gardner reported on his police radio, "Shots in the building. I need someone in the south lot with me. Pronto."
Yeah. By this point, Harris had shot 47 times and Klebold 5. What's it?
Jeez.
The shooters then entered the school through the west entrance, moving along the main north hallway, throwing pipe bombs and shooting at anyone they encountered. Klebold shot Stephanie Munson in the ankle, but she was able to walk out of the school.
Oh, geez.
Bear then shot out the windows to the east entrance of the school. After proceeding through the hall several times and shooting toward and missing any students they saw, they went toward the west entrance, turned into the library hallway.
If they were more accurate and they could have done some damage. These guys. Deputies Paul Smoker and Paul Magar, motorcycle patrolman in Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, were writing a traffic ticket north of the school when the female down call came in at 11:23 a.m. Taking the shortest route, they drove their motorcycles over grass between. All right, boys, we're gonna put these bikes on grass. That's where training comes in.
Right. This is what we trained for.
Right, and they did this between the athletic fields and headed toward the west entrance. When they saw Deputy Scott Taberski, Rick Searle, and Kevin Walker following them in the patrol car, they abandoned their motorcycles for the safety of the car.
You think?
You can.
Well, the 6 deputies had begun to rescue 2 wounded students near the ball fields when another gunfight broke out at 11:26. As Harris returned to the double doors and again began shooting at Deputy Gardner, who returned fire. From the hilltop, Deputy Smoker fired 3 rounds from his pistol at Harris, who again retreated into the building. As before, no one was hit. Inside the school cafeteria, Dave Sanders and 2 custodians, John Curtis and Jay Galatine, initially told students to get under the tables, then successfully evacuated them up the staircase leading to the second floor. It's not where you want to go.
No. Jeez, oh, Pete. The stairs were located around the corner from the library hallway in the main south hallway. Sanders then tried to secure as much of the school as he could. By now, Harris and Klebold were inside the main hallway. Sanders and another student were down at the end of the hallway, where he gestured for students in the library to stay. Oh, you idiot. They encountered Harris and Klebold, who were approaching from the corner of the north hallway. Sanders and the student turned and ran into the opposite direction.
Harris and Klebold shot at both of them, when Harris hitting Sanders twice in the neck and back, hitting his teeth on exit.
Oh.
What?
Yeah, to the neck and on his teeth.
Wow, but missing the student. The latter ran into the science classroom and warned everyone to hide. Klebold walked over towards Sanders, who had collapsed, and tossed a pipe bomb, then returned to Harris up the library hallway. Sanders struggled toward the science area, and a teacher took him to the classroom where 30 students were located. Due to the knowledge of first aid, student Aaron Hansey was brought to the classroom from another one by teachers despite the unfolding commotion.
All right.
Like, we need to get Mr. Sanders some assistance here, man. He has no teeth. Luckily, there were already dentures.
Right. With the assistance of a fellow student named Kevin Starkey and teacher Teresa Miller, Hansey administered first aid to Sanders for 3 hours.
Jeez.
Attempting to stem the blood loss using shirts from students in the room and showing him pictures from his wallet to keep him talking.
Nice.
For 3 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Using a phone in the room, Miller and several students maintained contact with the police outside the school for 3 hours.
Remember, they were in the library. We're not getting that. We'll get to that.
As the shooting unfolded, pipe bombs were tossed into hallways and down into the cafeteria. Patty Nielsen in the library called 911, telling their story and urging students in the library to take cover beneath desk. According to transcripts, her call was received by 911 operator at 11:25 and 18 seconds a.m.
Well, at 11:29, Harris and Klebold entered the library. 52 students, 2 teachers, and 2 librarians were inside. Harris yelled at everyone, "Get up!" loud enough to be heard on the 911 call. When no one complied, Harris yelled, "Fine, I'll start shooting anyways." Harris fired a shotgun twice at a desk. Student Evan Todd had been standing near a pillar when the shooters entered and had just taken cover behind a copier. Todd was hit by wood splinters in the eye and lower back, but was not seriously injured. He then hid behind the administrative counter.
Jeez, oh, Pete. The gunman walked into the library towards the 2 rows of computers. Sitting at the north row was disabled student Cal Velasquez.
Oh, jeez.
Klebold fired his shotgun, fatally hitting him in the head and back. They put down their ammunition-filled duffel bags at the south or lower row of the computers and reloaded their weapons. They then walked between the computer rooms toward the windows facing the outside staircase. Throughout the massacre in the library, they ordered everybody to get up and said how long they had been waiting for this and seemed to be enjoying themselves, shouting things like, "Woo!" after shooting. While ordering the jocks to stand up, one of the 2 said, "Anybody with a white hat or a sports emblem on it, it's dead." Jeez.
Oh, okay.
Wearing a white baseball cap at Columbine was a tradition among sports team members. Nobody stood up. Several students tried to hide their white hats.
Fuck yeah, they did, dude. Windows were shot out in the direction of the recently arrived police. Officers returned fire and the gunmen retreated from the windows. No one was injured. Klebold removed his trench coat and then fired a shotgun at a nearby table, injuring 3 students, Patrick Ireland, Daniel Steepleton, and Mackay Hall.
He's a Pete.
Harris walked toward the lower row of computer desks with a shotgun and fired a single shot under the first desk while down on one knee. He hit 14-year-old Stephen Kernow with a mortal wound to the neck.
Oh, jeez. Man, this is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
He then moved into the adjacent computer desk, injuring 17-year-old Casey Rugseger with a shot which passed completely through her right shoulder, also grazing her neck and severing a major artery. Oh, no. When she started gasping in pain, Harris said, "Quit your bitching."
These guys, huh?
Harris then walked to a table south of the lower computer table with 2 students underneath, Cassie Bernal and Emily Wyatt. Harris slapped the surface of the table twice as he knelt. And he said, "Peekaboo," before shooting Bernal once in the head with the shotgun, killing her. Jeez, oh, my. Dude. And the other one he left alive? Wow. Dude, can you imagine being Emily after that for the next
Well, we don't know if she didn't die.
5 years. All right.
Harris at this point held the gun with one hand, and the weapon hit his face in recoil, injuring his nose. Idiot. He told Klebold he had done so, and Klebold responded, "Why'd you do that?" After fatally shooting Burnaw, Harris turned towards the next table where Bree Pasquale sat next to the table rather than under it. Harris's nose was bleeding. Witnesses later reported he had blood around his mouth as well. Harris asked Pasquale if she wanted to die, and she responded with a plea for her life. Harris laughed and responded, "Everybody's going to die." When Klebold said, "Shoot her," Harris responded, "No, we're going to blow up the school anyway."
Oh, damn, she got lucky.
Yeah.
Klebold noticed Patrick Ireland trying to provide aid to Hall, who had suffered a wound in his knee. As Ireland tried to help Hall, he rose above the table. Klebold shot him a second time, hitting him twice in the head, once in the foot. Ireland was knocked unconscious but survived.
Wow.
He's knocked unconscious. Got a bullet in his head. Klebold then walked toward another table where he discovered 18-year-old Isaiah Scholes, 16-year-old Matthew Kechter, and 16-year-old Craig Scott, Rachel's younger brother. They're hiding underneath that table. Klebold called up to Harris and he says, "I found me an N-word," and tried to pull Scholes out from underneath the table.
Harris left Pasquale and joined him. According to witnesses, they taunted Scholes for a few seconds, making derogatory racial comments. The gunmen both fired under the table. Harris shot Scholes once in the chest, killing him. Klebold shot and killed Kechter. Though Scholes was shot in the head, Klebold said, "I didn't know black brains could fly that far." Jeez.
Right.
Meanwhile, Scott was uninjured, lying in the blood of his friends, feigning death.
Jeez.
Harris then yelled, "Who's ready to die next?" He turned and threw a cricket at the table. It was one of those bomb things.
Right.
Where Hall, Stapleton, and Ireland were located. It landed on Stapleton's thigh. Hall quickly noticed it and tossed it behind them and exploded in midair. Holy shit. Harris walked towards the bookcases between the west and center sections of tables, and he jumped on one and shook it, apparently attempting to topple it, then shot at the books which had fallen.
Okay, this dude is just messing around.
Yeah.
Klebold walked to the east area of the library. Harris walked from the bookcase past the central area to meet Klebold. The latter shot a display case next to the door, then turned and shot toward the closest table, hitting and injuring 17-year-old Mark Kintgen in the head and shoulder. He then turned toward the table to his left and firing, injuring 18-year-olds Lisa Kreutz and Lauren Townsend and Valine Schnurr with the same shotgun blast. Dang. Klebold then moved towards the same table and fired several shots with Tech 9, killing Townsend. At this point, the seriously injured Valine Schnurr began screaming, "Oh my God! Oh my God!"
In response, Klebold asked Schnurr if she believed in the existence of God. When Schnurr replied she did, Klebold asked why and commented, "God is gay." Although impossible to prove, this is possibly a reference to lyrics from Nirvana song "Stay Away," in which singer Kurt Cobain, who also committed suicide, uses the same phrase. Cobain has, who cares? Klebold reloaded but walked away from the table.
Harris approached another table where two girls were hiding. He bent down to look at them, dismissed them as pathetic. Harris then moved to another table where he fired twice, injuring 16-year-olds Nicole Nowlin and John Tomlin. Tomlin moved out from underneath the table. Klebold shot him repeatedly, moited him.
Harris then walked back over to the other side of the table where Townsend lay dead. Behind the table, a 16-year-old girl named Kelly Fleming had, like Bree Pasquale, sat next to the table rather than beneath it due to lack of space. Harris shot Fleming with a shotgun, hitting her in the back and killing her. He shot at the table behind Fleming, hitting Townsend, who was already dead. Kreutz again, and wounding 18-year-old Gianna Park. Shooters moved to the center of the library where they reloaded their weapons at a table.
Jeez, Pete. Harris then pointed his carbine under a table, but the student he was aiming at moved out of the way. Harris turned his gun back on the student and told him to identify himself. It was John Savage, an acquaintance of Klebold's. He asked Klebold what they were doing, to which he shrugged and answered, "Oh, just killing people." Savage asked if they were going to kill him. However, because of the background noise, Klebold said, "What?" Savage asked again whether they were going to kill him. Klebold said, "Nah, run."
Wow. Savage fled, escaping through the library's main entrance and through the cafeteria. After Savage left, Harris turned and fired his carbine at the table directly north of where he had been, hitting the ear and hand of 15-year-old Daniel Mauser.
Jeez.
Mauser retaliated by either shoving a chair at Harris or grabbing at his leg. Harris fired again and hit him in the center of the face at close range, killing him.
Obviously. He at least went fighting.
That Savage kid. Wonder if he has some survivor's guilt.
Harris then moved south and fired 3 shots underneath the table, another table, critically injuring 2 17-year-olds, Jennifer Doyle and Austin Eubanks. Klebold then shot once, fatally wounding a 17-year-old named Corey DePuter at 11:35 a.m. There were no further victims. They had killed 10 people in the library and wounded 12. At this point, Klebold was quoted as saying they might start knifing people, though they never did. They headed towards the library's main counter. Harris threw a Molotov cocktail toward the southwestern end of the library, but it failed to explode.
Wow, these guys are shit at making bombs and Molotovs, aren't they?
That's great, though, I guess.
They converged close to where Todd had moved after having been wounded. Klebold pulled the chair out from the desk, then he pointed his Tech 9 at him, who was wearing a white hat.
Oh, no.
Klebold asked if he was a jock, and then Todd said no. Klebold responded, well, that's good. We don't like jocks. Klebold then demanded to see his face. Todd partly lifted his hat so his face would remain obscured. When Klebold asked Todd to give him one reason why he should not kill him, Todd said, I don't want trouble. Klebold responded back angrily, trouble? You don't even know what trouble is.
Well, Todd tried to correct himself. No, that's not what I meant. I mean, I don't have a problem with you guys. Never will and never did. Klebold told Harris he was going to let Todd live, but that Harris could kill him if he wanted to. Like, I'm not going to kill him, but you can.
All right.
Harris appeared to pay no attention and stated that he and Klebold should head to the cafeteria. Like, do what you want, man. Klebold fired into an open library staff break room, hitting a small television. While Harris was walking away, Klebold said, hey, one more thing. Then picked up a chair beside the library counter under which Patty Nielsen was hiding and slammed the chair down on top of the computer terminal and library counter. Okay.
Yes. Klebold joined Harris at the library entrance. Two walked out at 11:36. Cautiously, fearing the shooter's return, 10 injured and 29 uninjured. Survivors began to evacuate the library through the north emergency exit,
All right,
which led to the sidewalk adjacent to the west entrance. Casey Ruegsager was evacuated from the library by Craig Scott. Had she not been evacuated at this point, Ruegsager would have likely bled to death from her
you
injuries.
ain't kidding.
Patrick Ireland, unconscious, and Lisa Kreutz, unable to move, remained in the building.
Right.
Patty Nielsen
Obviously.
crawled into the exterior break room into which Klebold had fired earlier and hid in a cupboard.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
Run out the damn emergency exit.
Right. After leaving the library, Harris and Klebold entered the science area, where they caused a fire in an empty storage closet. It was extinguished by a teacher who had hidden in an adjacent room. The gunmen then proceeded toward the south hallway, where they shot into an empty science room. 11:44 a.m. They were captured on the school security cameras as they re-entered the cafeteria.
That's the famous footage everybody has seen.
The recordings show Harris crouching against the rail on the staircase and firing toward the propane bombs left in the cafeteria. Right, if they're not going to go off, might as well shoot them. In an unsuccessful attempt to detonate them.
Mm-hmm. As Klebold approached the propane bomb and examined it, Harris took a drink from one of the cups left behind. Klebold lit a Molotov and threw it at the pipe bomb, or the propane bomb. About a minute later, the gallon of fuel attached to the bomb ignited, causing a fire that was extinguished by the fire sprinklers a few minutes later.
And that bomb still didn't go off.
Right.
Man, they're so lucky.
They left the cafeteria at 11:46. After leaving, they returned to the main north and south hallways of the school and fired several shots into walls and ceilings as students and teachers hid in rooms. They walked through the south hallway into the main office before returning into the north hallway. At 11:56, they returned to the cafeteria and briefly entered the school kitchen. They returned up the staircase and into the south hallway at 12 p.m.
Jeez, why are they still just running around? Where's fuck is the cops? Jeez, oh Pete, man. They re-entered the library. Oh, jeez. Was empty of survivors except for the unconscious Patrick Ireland and the injured Lisa Kreutz. Once inside at 12:02 p.m., police were shot at again through the library windows, and the police returned fire. Well, got to do something.
Right.
Nobody was injured. 12:05, all gunfire from the school had ceased. By 12:08, both gunmen had killed themselves. Harris sat down with his back to a bookshelf and fired a shotgun through the roof of his mouth.
Jeez.
Klebold went down on his knees and shot himself in the left temple with his Tech 9. An article by the Rocky Mountain News stated that Patty Nielsen overheard them shout 1, 2, 3 in unison just before a loud boom.
Well, Nielsen later said she had never spoken with either of the writers of the article, so lies. In 2002, the National Enquirer published 2 post-mortem photos of Harris and Klebold in the library. Klebold's gun was underneath his body and so unseen in the photo, leading to speculation that Harris shot Klebold before killing himself. However, some of Klebold's blood was on Harris's legs. Okay. Also, just before shooting himself, Klebold lit a Molotov cocktail on a nearby table, underneath which Patrick Ireland was laying, which caused the tabletop to momentarily catch fire. Underneath the scorched film and material was a piece of Harris's brain matter, suggesting Harris had shot himself by this point.
He's a freaking Pete, man. By 12 p.m., SWAT teams were stationed outside the school. Ambulances started taking wounded to local hospitals. They called for additional ammunition for police officers in case of a shootout. Came at 12:20.
Jeez, they're already dead.
Authorities reported pipe bombs by 1, and 2 SWAT teams entered the school at 1:09. That's ridiculous. Moving from classroom to classroom, discovering hidden students and faculty. They entered at the end of the school opposite of the library, hampered by old maps and unaware a new wing had recently been added. What?
How do you not know a damn wing is added at a high school in your town you patrol in?
They were also hampered by the sound of the fire alarms.
Jeez.
Meanwhile,
families and students and staff were asked to gather at nearby Leewood Elementary to await information. All students, teachers, and school employees were taken away, questioned, and offered medical care in small holding areas before being bused to meet with their family. Some of the victims' families were told to wait on one final school bus that never came. Damn. Imagine that, huh?
you ain't getting
We got one more school bus coming. No, we don't.
right. Jeez, oh, Pete. Patrick Ireland had regained and lost consciousness several times after being shot by Klebold. Paralyzed on his right side, he crawled to the library windows, where on live television at 2:38 p.m., he stretched out the window, intending to fall into the arms of 2 SWAT team members standing on the roof of an emergency vehicle, but instead falling directly onto the vehicle's roof in a pool of blood. Oh, geez, oh, Pete. He became known as the boy in the window.
No.
The team members, Don Kramer and John Ramoniak, were later criticized for allowing Ireland to drop more than 7 feet to the ground while doing nothing to try to ensure he would be lowered to the ground safely or to break his fall. What idiots.
At 2:15 p.m., students placed a sign in the window said one bleeding to death in order to alert police and medical personnel of Dave Sanders' location in the science room. So this dude's still in there.
That's right. People bleeding to death, not one. Like, it's only one.
Right. Police initially feared it was a ruse by the shooters. It's 2:00 and they still don't even know these guys are dead. The SWAT team entered at 1:09. How did they not get to the library after an hour? A shirt was also tied to the doorknob. At 2:30, this was spotted, and by 2:40, SWAT officers evacuated the room and called for a paramedic. Hansi and Starkey were reluctant to leave Sanders behind. By 3, the SWAT officers had moved Sanders to a storage room, which was more easily accessible. As they did so, a paramedic arrived and found Sanders had no pulse. He had died of his injuries in the storage room before he could receive medical care.
I wonder why.
He was the only teacher to die in the shooting.
That's ridiculous.
Maybe don't move him.
Right.
He was doing fine before he got moved.
And first of all, why did it take freaking 2 hours?
Right.
Lisa Kreutz, shot in the shoulder, arms, hand, and thigh, remained laying in the library. She had tried to move, but became lightheaded. Kreutz kept track of time by the sound of the school's bells until the police arrived. Kreutz was finally evacuated at 3:22 p.m. That's ridiculous. Along with Patty Nielsen, Brian Anderson, and the left 3 library staff who had hidden in the rooms adjacent to the library. Officials found the bodies in the library by 3:30.
Oh, my gosh.
By 4 o'clock, Sheriff John P. Stone made an initial estimate of 25 dead students and teachers, 50 wounded, and referred to the massacre as a suicide mission. President Bill Clinton later issued a statement.
How do you have an initial estimate of 25 students dead?
Idiots.
Doesn't make sense. Stone said that police officers were searching the bodies of the gunmen. They feared they had used their pipe bombs to booby-trap corpses, including their own. At 4:30, the school was declared safe. At 5:30, additional officers were called in as more explosives were found in the parking lot and on the roof.
Jeez.
By 6:15, officials had found a bomb in Klebold's car in the parking lot set to detonate the gas tank. Stone then marked the entire school as a crime scene. You think?
No shit. 10:40 p.m., a member of the bomb squad who was attempting to dispose of an undetonated pipe bomb accidentally lit a match attached to the bomb by brushing it against the wall of the ordnance disposal trailer.
How do you light it by brushing it? More like was very uncareful with it and hit it against the wall.
Well, the bomb detonated inside the trailer, but no one was injured.
Wow.
The bomb squad disrupted the car bomb. Klebold's car was repaired and in 2006 put up for auction. Oh, that's bullshit.
Right.
Get the fuck out of here.
Total count of deaths was 12 students and 1 teacher. 20 students, 1 teacher were injured as a result of the shootings. 3 more victims were injured indirectly as they tried to escape. 10 a.m., the bomb squad declared the building safe for officials to enter. By 11:30, spokesman of the sheriff's office declared the investigation underway. 13 of the bodies were still inside as investigators photographed the building.
Wow.
Jeez, just laying there.
All right. At 2:30 p.m., a press conference was held by Jefferson County District Attorney David Thomas and Sheriff John Stone, which they said they suspected others had helped plan the shooting. Yeah, right. Formal identification of the dead had not taken place, but families of the children thought to have been killed had been notified. Like, your family is your daughter or son possibly dead.
I think they would know that since none of them came home.
Throughout the late afternoon and early evening, the bodies were gradually removed from the school, taken to the Jefferson County coroner, identified and autopsied. And the names of many of the dead were known. An official statement was released, naming the 15 confirmed deaths and 27 injuries related to the massacre. April 22nd, the cafeteria bombs were discovered.
I don't understand how they don't know there's two black duffel bags, dude.
Jeez.
I guess there was probably a shit ton of other bags still in there.
Those were the biggest ones.
Right. In the days following the shootings, Rachel Scott's car and John Tomlin's truck became memorials. Yeah, because they never left the parking lot because they're dead, right? And impromptu memorials were held in Clement Park. April 30th, carpenter Greg Zanis erected 15 6-foot-tall wooden crosses to honor those who had died at the school. Daniel Rohrbaugh's father cut down the 2 meant for the gunmen. Right. Why would he do 15 anyway?
Right. Why would you do that?
Stupid. There were also 15 trees planted. Why? And he cut down 2 of those as well. Good for you, guy's father. In November 21, a report was leaked to NPR about that year's National Rifle Association convention in Denver.
Oh, geez.
In a series of audios, Wayne LaPierre and other top officials suggested raising $1 million for the victims' families, and the cancellation of the convention was considered by some within the organization.
Get the hell out of here.
Right.
Jeez. Also on the 30th of April, high-ranking officials of Jefferson County and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office met to decide if they should reveal that Michael Guerrera had drafted an affidavit for a search warrant. Of course you should. You don't hide anything, man.
Right.
This was when they had it for Harris's residence more than a year before the shootings, which we went through.
Yeah.
Based on his previous investigation on Harris's website and activities as well. I'm like, come on. Yes, you need to tell these people, you moron. Since the affidavit's contents lacked the necessary probable cause, they decided not to disclose this information.
Of course they did. Why make themselves look bad?
And they never mentioned it in any other way.
Over the next 2 years, Guerra's original draft and investigative file documents were lost.
Oh, were they?
Conveniently. In September of 99, a Jefferson County investigator failed to find the documents during a secret search of the county's computer system.
Oh, wow.
Second attempt in late 2000 found copies of the document within the Jefferson County archives. Their loss was termed troubling by a grand jury convened after the file's existence was reported in April of 2001.
All right.
It was concealed by the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and not revealed until September 2001.
Oh, geez.
Resulting from an investigation by the TV show 60 Minutes.
Oh, fantastic.
The documentations were reconstructed and released to the public, but the original documents are still missing.
Oh.
Final grand jury investigation was released in September of 2004.
In the wake of the shooting, victims Rachel Scott and Cassie Bernal came to regard it as Christian martyrs by evangelical Christians. Of course they did.
Right.
Christian churches used the martyr narrative of Scott and Bernal's deaths to promote themselves as recruit members. And it's ridiculous. See, this is why. Here, this shit. The closest living witnesses to Scott's death, Richard Castaldo, has stated Harris asked if Scott believed in God and murdered her after she answered, "You know I do." But this has been questioned. Of course it has. Castaldo later stated he was not sure. Considerable media attention focused upon Bernal, who had been killed by Harris in the library and whose Harris reported to have asked, "Do you believe in God?" immediately prior to her murder.
But if he asked these two and killed them, supposedly, why did he ask the one?
Right.
And when she said yes, he's like, God's gay, and then just walked away. Didn't kill her,
right?
But killed these two.
Right.
So that don't make any sense.
Man, that's garbage.
Bernal was reported to have responded yes to the question before murder. Emily Wyant, the closest living witness to Bernal's death, denied that Bernal and Harris had such an exchange.
Right.
Joshua Lapp thought Bernal had been queried about her belief, but he was unable to correctly point out where Bernal was located and was closer to survivor Valine Schnurr during the shootings. Likewise, another witness, Craig Scott, claimed the discussion was with Bernal. However, when asked to indicate where the conversation had been coming from, he pointed to where Schnurr was shot. Yeah, the Schnurr's the one that he asked.
Right.
Schnurr herself claimed that she was the one questioned as to her belief in God.
Right.
Right.
And so what?
Jeez.
Classes at Columbine were held at nearby Chetfield Senior High School for the remaining 3 weeks.
How about that? 3 weeks of school canceled.
Just canceled, yeah. Right. So stupid. August of 1999, students returned to the school. Principal Frank DeAngelis led a rally of students clad in We Are Columbine shirts. 6 months after the shootings, Anne Marie Hawkatzer's mother killed herself. Oh, man. Of course. I'm sure there's got to be more to that, too. Several former students and teachers had PTSD. Greg Barnes, a 17-year-old student who had witnessed Sanders' shooting, committed suicide in May of 2000.
Jeez, dude.
Survivor Austin Eubanks, who was injured during the shooting, became heavily medicated, developed opioid addiction. Same thing as being dead.
Right.
Oh, look at this shit. Eventually overcome it. Good for you, fucking Austin.
Right.
He overcame this addiction, later speaking publicly about this addiction. Eubanks died from an accidental overdose in 2009
Jeez.
at the age of 37.
Austin just couldn't take it. I want to know about the Savage kid that they told to run out of the library.
Right.
In the immediate aftermath, conspiracy theories and unfounded claims were made by several anti-government movements and extremist religious and political movements, such as the piece of shit assholes, the Westboro Baptist Church, and televangelist Jerry Falwell Sr., who's probably a piece of shit as well.
Right.
Westboro's founder and then leader, Fred Phelps, unfoundedly claimed that both Harris and Klebold were gay. Two filthy fags slaughtered 13 people at Columbine High. Falwell also claimed that Harris and Klebold were gay, though he retracted afterward.
When you hear stuff like that from supposedly Christians, they're not.
Right.
They're not.
You know right away, like, yeah, you guys are fake.
Yeah. Conspiracy theories also arose from anti-gun control activists and extremists.
Well, you know that.
Claiming that the massacre had either been staged
jeez,
or that both Harris and Klebold had been government agents. The only thing that got to go with that because his dad's an ex-Air Force guy.
I guess, but I mean, come on.
Aiming at promoting tougher gun control legislation. Other conspiracy theories pointed to a mysterious third shooter that has never been identified.
Pretty sure all the survivors would have said there was 3 people.
Other anti-Semitic conspiracy theories pointed to the massacre being a Jewish conspiracy due to Klebold's mother being Jewish. Oh, my goodness. Political commentator and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones once implied that the U.S. government had perpetrated Columbine and has claimed that Columbine school shootings were 100% a false flag.
Turn the frogs gay. The shooting was planned, also, they say, as a terrorist attack that would cause the most deaths in U.S. history.
Well done.
But the motive has never been ascertained with any degree of certainty.
If it was definitely done by government officials, they would have the training to make bombs that detonated.
Right. In a letter provided with the May 15th report on the Columbine attack, Sheriff John Stone and Undersheriff John A. Dunaway wrote that they cannot answer the most fundamental question.
His name was John A. Dunaway.
Yeah.
Nice.
John A. Dunaway.
Nice.
They cannot answer the most fundamental question, which is why. In the days following the event, media speculation regarding the killer's motive was rife. Media reports were disseminated, suggesting various motives of the killers, although all theories were largely unsubstantiated, right, and turned out to be missed because the media is a piece of shit, as we know that.
Media's garbage. These reports included blaming bullying, of course.
Probably.
Goth culture.
Maybe.
Games as usual. And Marilyn Manson.
Well,
I do
whatever.
remember
I'll
that.
blame that guy.
And targeting jocks and minorities.
Well, we got the one instance of minority. But
if you guys don't know what the 90s were, I mean, goth culture, video games, Marilyn Manson, jocks and minorities, they all hated each other.
We can also say they probably most likely targeted jocks, which they did the video where they were protecting preppies from jocks. So.
Right. 90s, you got the grunge and the goth. The jocks and the other people, they weren't shy about making fun of you.
Right. I'm sure it still happens.
Oh, I'm sure it still happens. But yeah, video games, they're just getting popular. Games of like first person shooting was just coming around, like Doom and Duke Nukem and GoldenEye or some shit like that.
Yeah, 99. PlayStation had been out, 64 and all that stuff. So yeah.
Right. So you're getting those first shooters. Grand Theft Auto wasn't a thing yet.
Well, it was.
Right.
Top down version though.
Right. Well, it was decent. Other rumors were spread in the local area, but not largely disseminated by the media, such as the false claims spread by some students that the killers were bullied because they were homosexual.
Jeez, these guys will run with anything, won't they?
Right.
The FBI, here we go, concluded that the killer suffered from mental illness, that Harris was a clinical psychopath, and Klebold was depressive.
Who's the one that wanted to be a cannibal? Was it Klebold?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So I think Klebold was he was a sociopath.
Remember, Harris was the one that was like normal playing baseball and stuff.
So,
and he's the one that killed most of the people.
Yeah, so maybe he was a psychopath, and Klebold was a sociopath.
Right. Dwayne Fusilier, the supervisor in charge of the Columbine investigation, would later remark, he said, "I believe Eric went to school to kill and didn't care if he died, while Dylan wanted to die and didn't care if others died as well."
All right.
Different things, but I guess, yeah. April 98, a year prior to the shooting, as part of his diversion program, Harris wrote a letter of apology to the owner of the van he and Klebold broke into earlier that year. And
he did that to get the hell out of there.
Oh, right.
Around the same time, he derided the owner of the van in his journal, stating that he believed he had the right to steal something if he wanted to.
Yeah, psychopath.
Like if I want it, it's mine, man. It's like these people today. By far, the most prevalent theme in Klebold's journals is his wish for suicide and private despair at his lack of success with women, which he refers to as an infinite sadness. Klebold had repeatedly documented his desires to kill himself in his final remark in the basement tapes. Shortly before the attack is a resigned statement that made as he glanced away from the camera. Just know I'm going to a better place. I didn't like life too much.
Oh, sucks to be you, bud. And I guess those 12 people, but
Right.
the FBI's theory was used by Dave Cullen for his 2009 book Columbine. Harris was depicted as the mastermind, having a messianic level of superiority,
Messiah,
superiority complex, and hoping to demonstrate his superiority into the world.
Right.
Klebold was a follower who primarily participated in the massacres as a mean to simply end his life.
Right. He didn't care.
Right. This
You
theory,
do what you want. I'm just going to kill myself
I'll just
anyway.
come with you. This theory has been met with criticism. Critics cite the fact that Klebold, not Harris, was the first to mention a killing spree in his journal, which he was.
Right.
They also cite evidence that Harris was depressed as well, such as his prescription for antidepressants mentioned below.
That's a problem. Parents, do not put your children on medication. There's no such thing as ADHD or ADD.
When one of the side effects is may cause thoughts of suicide,
Right.
you probably don't want to do that.
There's no such thing as anything that the doctors are trying to tell you your child has. It's all garbage. If they say if a remedy for it is a pill, it's bullshit. Opponents for contemporary psychiatry, like Peter Bregan, claim that psychiatric medications prescribed to Harris may have exacerbated his aggressiveness.
You
of
think?
course. Harris had a complaint of depression, anger, suicidal thoughts, for which he was prescribed antidepressants.
I'm having suicidal thoughts, so I'll give you antidepressant that enhances those suicidal thoughts.
Right. Toxicology reports confirmed that Harris had Luvox in his bloodstream at the time of the shootings, whereas Klebold had no medications in his system. Right? Harris continued to schedule meetings with his psychologist until a few months before the massacre. So Harris was a nut.
Early stories following the massacre charged that school administrators and teachers at Columbine had long condoned bullying by jocks, and this explained the motive. The link between bullying and school violence has attracted increasing attention since. Accounts from various parent and school staffers reported bullying in the school. Reportedly, Harris and Klebold were regularly called faggots. Klebold said on the basement tapes, "You've been giving us shit for years."
Right. I mean, you only can take so much. While
Eric
talking to his father about jocks, Brown stated they sure give Eric hell. Brown also noted Harris was born with mild chest indent.
Right.
Well, anyway, he had that chest indent.
Right.
This made him reluctant to take off his shirt.
Gym class, like we said, right?
And other students would laugh at him, as we said. Nathan Vandrow, a friend of Klebold, and Elisa Owen, who knew Harris, noted they were picked on. He was like, yeah, these guys were picked on. Vandrow recalled that a cup of fecal matter was thrown. Oh, jeez.
Oh, no. What are they?
See, now we're hearing, yeah, when you get poop thrown at you,
Yeah.
I think you deserve Tech 9, right?
I guess.
No. It has been alleged that Harris and Klebold were once both confronted by a group of students at Columbine who sprayed them with ketchup while referring to them as faggots and queers. Oh, wow.
Klebold told his mother it had been the worst day of his life. According to Brooks Brown, that happened while teachers watched. They couldn't fight back.
My goodness.
They wore the ketchup all day and went home covered with it.
What?
According to classmate Chad Laughlin, it involved seniors pelting Klebold with ketchup-covered tampons in the commons, which was the cafeteria. Laughlin also stated, a lot of the tension in the school came from the class above us. There were people fearful of walking by a table where you knew you didn't belong, stuff like that. Certain groups certainly got preferential treatment across the board.
It's sounding to me like there's a bunch of assholes in this school.
Sounds to me like the whole teachers and everybody was a bunch of pieces of shit.
Right.
I'm sure Columbine had a big football or baseball or something
probably football
community, and teachers were like state championship.
Right. Jeez, oh Pete, the movies aren't far from the truth.
Right.
Boys. That's some garbage shit right there.
Art often imitates life. Is that what they say?
Right. I mean, it don't warrant what happened, but still, jeez, oh Pete, I kind of understand.
Could have been prevented.
Similar theory is expounded by Brooks Brown in his book on the massacre. No easy answers.
Hey, but he got a payday, didn't he?
He noted that teachers commonly ignored bullying, and that whenever Harris and Klebold were bullied by the jocks, they would make statements such as, "Don't worry, man, it happens all the time." Cullen and others dispute the theory of revenge for bullying as a motivation. They're like, nah. While acknowledging the bullying in high schools, Cullen claimed they were not victims of bullying. Get the hell out of here.
He said he noted Harris was often more the perpetrator than victim of bullying.
Really?
And the fact check published on April 19, 2019, on the eve of the commemoration of the 20th anniversary, Gillian Brockwell in the Washington Post, well, don't take anything he says for face value,
Right.
underscored that, contrary to the popular view, their attack was not revenge for being bullied, because you would know how.
Right.
Peter Langman also argues against bullying being the cause of the attack, because you would know how.
Right.
Other researchers have also argued against the bullying hypothesis.
Rejection was also highlighted as a cause,
Maybe.
which was also a case. Social cliques within high schools, such as the Trenchcoat Mafia, are widely discussed. One perception formed was that Harris and Klebold were both outcasts who had been isolated from their classmates, prompting feelings of helplessness, insecurity, depression, as well as a strong need for power and attention. Harris's last journal entry reads, "I hate you people for leaving me out of so many fun things." While Klebold wrote, "The lonely man strikes with absolute rage." In an interview, Brooks Brown described them as the school's worst outcasts. He said they're the losers of the losers.
It's got you can't be the losers of the losers.
Man.
This concept, too, has been questioned, as both Harris and Klebold had a close group of friends and wider informal social group, which they did, right.
Some peers, such as Robin Anderson, stated that the pair were not interested in Nazism, and they did not worship or admire Hitler in any way. However, in retrospect, Anderson also stated that there were many things the pair did not tell friends.
Wasn't there a swastika on the machete?
There was. It could just been a machete with a swastika.
I mean, I guess, but
they had.
right.
Harris at least did revere the Nazis, often praising them in his journal.
Okay.
Sociologist Ralph Larkin has theorized that the massacre was to trigger a revolution of outcast students and the dispossessed.
Okay.
Right. I would say so. Kind of, maybe. You know, hey, rise up, boys.
Right, I guess.
I don't know. As an overtly political act in the name of oppressed students victimized by their peers. The Columbine shootings redefined such acts not merely as revenge, but as a means of protest of bullying, intimidation, social isolation, and public rituals of humiliation. In contrast with the theory that attack was political, one author argues Columbine was only increasingly linked to terrorism after the September 11th attacks, obviously.
Okay, yeah. Well, in the late 90s, Marilyn Manson, back to this guy,
Yeah.
and his band established themselves as a household name.
They did.
And as one of the most controversial rock acts in music history. Their 2 album releases prior to the massacre were both critical and commercial successes.
Right.
And by the time of their Rock is Dead tour in 99, the frontman had become a culture war iconoclast and a rallying icon for alienated youth.
Was
Immediately after the massacre, a significant portion of blame was directed at the band. And specifically at its outspoken frontman.
They sure in hell did. No, they got him hard.
Yeah.
In the weeks following the shootings, media reports about Harris and Klebold portrayed them and the Trenchcoat Mafia as part of the Gothic cult.
Poor Trenchcoat Mafia.
Right.
They just
Like-
get thrown in this stuff. Like,
Dude,
we didn't do anything.
we just like trench coats. Early media reports alleged that the shooters were fans and were wearing the group's T-shirts during the massacre.
Well, we know that's not true.
Right. Although they're proven to be false. News outlets continue to run.
Of course they did.
They run these stories as headlines such as "Killers worshipped rock freak Manson," and "Devil worshipping maniac told kids to kill."
Jeez.
Just like Kiss back in the day.
How didn't
Like Kiss in the 70s and 80s.
how didn't Marilyn Manson sue any of these guys?
Speculation in national media and among the public led many to believe that Manson's music and imagery were the shooter's sole motivation, despite reports that revealed that the two were not big fans at all.
Jeez.
Manson's got to be like, what the hell?
Right. Like, what, dude, come on now.
I do. Sweet dreams are made of these.
Right. Despite this, Marilyn Manson were widely criticized by religious, political, and entertainment industry figures.
Right.
Under mounting pressure in the days after Columbine, their group postponed their last 5 North American tour dates out of respect for the victims and their families.
Right.
Manson published his response to these accusations in an op-ed piece for the Rolling Stone titled Columbine, Whose Fault Is It?
Right.
In which he castigated America's gun culture, the political influence of the NRA, and the media's irresponsible coverage, mostly, which he said facilitated the placing of blame on a scapegoat.
Yes.
After concluding the European and Japanese legs of their tour on August 8th, the band withdrew from public view to work on their next album, which was 2000's Hollywood, In the Shadow of the Valley of Death, as an artistic rebuttal to the allegations leveled against them.
Damn right. They got to do something. They are able to hook into the internet and play video games that are extraordinarily violent, that cause the blood pressure to rise and the adrenaline level to go up. Games that cause people to be killed and players to die themselves. It is a very intense experience. They are able to get into internet chat rooms. And if there are no nuts or people of the same mentality in their hometown, hook up with people around the country. They are able to rent from the video store, not just go down to see Natural Born Killers or the Basketball Diaries, but they're able to bring it home. In this case, even maybe make their own violent film. Many have said this murder was very much akin to the Basketball Diaries, in which a student goes in and shoots others in a classroom. I have seen a video of that, and many others may have. Chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee Subcommittee on the Youth Violence, Senator Jeff Sessions, testifying before the Senate on the Columbine tragedy in 1999.
Well, that guy's an idiot.
Right.
Violent video games were also blamed, as we just seen.
Right.
Parents of some of the victims filed several unsuccessful lawsuits against video game manufacturers.
Right.
Never will happen. Jared Block believes their immersion in a virtual world best explains the massacre. No. Brown disagrees video games caused the massacre. He agrees elements of their plan came from video games.
Obviously.
Harris and Klebold were
Or
both fans of the
or-
shooter video games such as Doom, Quake, Duke Nukem, and Postal. A file on Harris's computer read that the massacre
Not
would
only
be like...
Duke Nukem, but Duke Nukem 3D.
Right. 3D, right? A file on Harris's computer read the massacre will be like the LA riots, the Oklahoma bombing, World War II, Vietnam, Duke, and Doom all mixed together.
Hey.
In his last journal entry, Harris wished to get a few extra frags on the scoreboard. Don't know what that is. After the massacre, it was alleged Harris created Doom and Duke Nukem 3D levels resembling Columbine, but these were never found.
Get the hell out of here.
Right.
Idiots. They were avid fans of Doom, especially. Harris said the massacre, it's going to be like Doom.
Man.
He also wrote, I must not be sidetracked by my feelings of sympathy. So I will force myself to believe that everyone is just another monster from Doom.
Do you think he saw? No, that's weird.
And Harris
pictured these guys' faces as, I don't know who the monsters are in Doom, but
I don't remember either. In Harris's yearbook, Klebold wrote, I find a similarity between people and Doom zombies. Harris named a shotgun Arlene after a character in the Doom novels. The Tech 9 Klebold used assembled an AB-10, a weapon from the Doom novels that Harris referenced several times. Harris spent a great deal of time creating a large wad named Tier, German for animal, and a song by Rammstein.
Ooh, Rammstein.
Calling it his life's work. Well, the wad was uploaded to the Columbine school computer and the AOL shortly before the attack, but appears to have been lost.
Of course.
Why would it be lost?
Who knows? The other game mentioned specifically by Harris for what the massacre would be like was Duke Nukem 3D. The game has pipe bombs, and one of the enemies is the pig cop.
Oh, yeah, pick up.
Brooks Brown wrote that pipe bombs were set in the halls of the school with the intention of causing a chain reaction because that's what happens at Duke Nukem 3D. Brown also wrote they shot wildly because it works in Duke Nukem 3D.
Right.
Well, not in real life, buds.
Right. Following the Columbine shooting, schools across the United States instituted new security measures, such as see-through backpacks, metal detectors, school uniforms, security guards.
School uniforms? Why? Because wearing a band shirt's going to provoke somebody to kill somebody?
Right. Some schools implemented the numbering of school doors in order to improve public safety response.
That's
Several schools throughout the country resorted to requiring students to wear computer-generated IDs.
Ooh.
Oh. School also adopted a zero-tolerance approach to professions of weapons and threatening behavior by students. So bullying.
Wait, so they had
No bullying.
they didn't have a zero tolerance to weapons before?
Right. What's that?
Oh, you got a switchblade?
Just a regular,
That's
just
okay.
a regular 9mm.
Right.
I don't have a magazine.
All right. Despite the efforts, several social science experts feel the zero tolerance approach adopted in schools has been implemented too harshly, with unintended consequences. With unintended consequences creating other problems.
Okay.
Despite the safety measures that were implemented in the wake of Columbine, school shootings continue to take place in the United States, including all of these, which we will be covering in the coming weeks: Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, Stoneman Douglas, which is Parkland, Robb Elementary, the one that just happened. Some schools renewed existing anti-bullying policies. Rachel's Challenge was started by Rachel Scott's parents and lectured schools about bullying and suicide.
Hey, you got to talk about it. Police departments reassess their tactics, which they should, because it was way too long. Just go in, bud. Just go in. Man.
24 years later, and you've seen basically the same thing happen at the Robb Elementary. Dude.
Right, that's ridiculous. And they now train for Columbine-like situations after criticism of the slow response and progress of the SWAT teams during the shooting.
The SWAT team went in at 109 and still hadn't reached the last o'clock.
That's
like, what in the I don't understand.
stupidity, man. Police followed traditional tactic at Columbine, surrounded the building, set up a perimeter, and contained the damage. That approach has been replaced by a tactic known as the immediate action rapid deployment tactic. The tactic calls for a 4-person team to advance into the site of any ongoing shooting. Yes, get the hell in there.
Police officers using this tactic are trained to move toward the sound of gunfire, obviously, and neutralize the shooter as quickly as possible.
Damn right.
The goal is to stop the shooter at all costs. They are to walk past wounded victims,
Right.
as the aim is to prevent the shooter from killing or wounding more.
Exactly.
They're walk over you. Hey, man, somebody will come back for you.
Hey, bud. Yeah.
Dave Cullen has stated the active protocol has proved successful at numerous shootings.
Damn right.
At Virginia Tech alone, it probably saved dozens of
You
lives.
freaking kidding?
They rushed straight towards the guy, dude.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Jeez, oh, Pete. After the massacre, many survivors and relatives of deceased victims filed lawsuits.
You're damn right.
Under Colorado state law at the time, the maximum a family could receive in a lawsuit against a government agency was $600,000.
That's so dumb.
Most cases against Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and school district were dismissed by the federal court on the grounds of government immunity.
Oh, yeah, because governments can do whatever the hell they want.
The case against the sheriff's office regarding the death of Dave Sanders was not dismissed due to the police preventing paramedics from going to his aid for hours after they knew the gunmen were dead. The case was settled out of court in 2002 of August for $1.5 million.
Okay, well, many impromptu memorials were created after the massacre, including victims Rachel Scott's car and John Talman's truck, which we said. 2000, youth advocate Melissa Helmbrecht organized a remembrance event in Denver featuring 2 surviving students called A Call to Hope.
Okay.
The library where most of the massacre took place was removed and replaced with an atrium. Good. In 2001, a new library, the Hope Memorial Library, was built next to the west entrance.
Fantastic. 26th of February 2004, thousands of pieces of evidence from the massacre were put on display at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds in Golden.
Why?
A permanent memorial to honor and remember the victims of April 20th, 1999. Began planning in June of 1999 and was dedicated on September 21st in 2007.
Bro, how does it take 7-8 years to make a memorial?
Hey, and they did that at Clement Park. The memorial fund raised $1.5 million in donations over 8 years of planning.
Wow.
Designing took 3.5 years and included feedback from victims, families, survivors, and the high school students and staff and the community.
So everybody.
Right.
Soon after the massacre, music students at CU Boulder raised money to commission a piece of music to honor Columbine. The university band turned to Frank Ticelli, who responded by composing the wind ensemble work in American Elegy.
Okay.
Elegy?
Sure.
The following year, the Columbine band premiered the piece at CU Boulder's Concert Hall. As of 2019, Ticelli's sheet music publisher estimates an American Elegy has been performed 10,000 times.
Good for that. Worked out. The shooting resulted in calls for more gun control measures.
Because, of course,
The gun show loophole and background checks became a focus of national debate. It was the deadliest mass shooting during the era of a federal assault weapons ban. Victim Daniel Mauser's father, Tom Mauser, has become a gun control advocate. 2019, My Last Shot Project was launched as a student-led gun violence prevention resource. The campaign was created by students from Columbine High School. Involved students placing stickers on their driver's licenses, student IDs, or phones that states their wishes to have the graphic photos of their bodies publicized if they died in a shooting.
yeah, people need to know what goes on, dude.
If I die in a shooting, you put my shit on the news.
You know, everybody needs to see this.
Right.
Columbine has since become a euphemism for school shooting, rather like going postal is for workplace violence.
All right.
Since the advent of social media, a fandom for shooters Harris and Klebold has been documented.
Of course.
Has a presence on social media sites, especially Tumblr.
Oh, geez.
Fans of Harris and Klebold refer to themselves as Columbiners. An article published in 2015 in the Journal of Transformative Works, a scholarly journal which focuses on the sociology of fandoms, noted that Columbiners were not fundamentally functionally different from more mainstream fandoms.
Oh, jeez.
Okay,
Right.
Columbiners create fan art, fan fiction, even cosplay in the pair, and have scholarly interest in the shooting. Number of books, movies, and other media have been inspired, obviously. Among these are several video games. A video game called Super Columbine Massacre RPG was based on the massacre, and the flash game Pico School was also inspired by it.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
Idiots.
The Columbine shootings influenced subsequent school shootings, with several such plots mentioning it. Fear of copycats has sometimes led to closing of entire school districts.
Jeez.
Since Columbine, over 74 copycat cases have been reported, 21 of which resulted in attacks,
Wow.
while the rest were thwarted by law enforcement. In many of them, the perpetrators cited Harris and Klebold as heroes or martyrs.
Well, Harris and Klebold have become what the Napa Valley Register have called cultural icons for troubled youth.
All right.
According to psychiatrist E. Fuller Torrey of the Treatment Advocacy Center, the legacy of the Columbine shootings is alert of disaffected youth. Yeah. Sociologist Ralph Larkin examined 12 major school shootings in the U.S. in the following 8 years, found that in 8 of those, the shooters made explicit reference to Harris and Klebold.
Right.
Larkin wrote that the Columbine massacre established a script for shootings. Numerous Numerous post-Columbine rampage shooters referred directly to Columbine as their inspiration. Others
Yeah.
attempted to supersede the Columbine shootings in body count.
Jeez,
right?
OP.
It's competition now, right?
2015 investigation by CNN identified more than 40 people charged with Columbine-style plots. A 2014 investigation by ABC News identified at least 17 attacks and another 36 alleged plots or serious threats against schools since the assault on Columbine that can be tied to the 1999 massacre. Ties identified by ABC News included online research by the perpetrators into the Columbine shooting, clipping news coverage and images of Columbine, explicit statements of admiration of Harris and Klebold, such as writings in journals and on social media, and video posts as well, and police interviews. Timing planned to an anniversary of Columbine, plans to exceed the Columbine victim counts and others' ties.
Yeah. 16, after Klebold's mother, Sue Klebold, surfaced to speak out on mental health, and she was condemned by then Attorney General of Colorado, Cynthia Kaufman, who tweeted that Klebold had been irresponsible and inflammatory for an interview with Diane Sawyer. She also added up on a follow-up tweet that Klebold has been selfish and that her interview could have very negative consequences. Kaufman's remarks were condemned by Ted Zacco Hawkhalter, father of a student paralyzed in the attack, who said there was nothing wrong with Klebold coming up as a remorseful mother trying to speak awareness on mental issues.
Right. Get the hell out of here.
Other mental health organizations echoed Zacco Hawkhalter's remarks.
Get the hell out of here. Fucking Colorado, don't be douchebags.
Right.
When all was said and done, the duo killed 12 students, one teacher, wounded an additional 21. Fatalities: Rachel Scott, 17. Daniel Robo, 15. William David Sanders, 47. Kyle Velasquez, 16. Stephen Kernow, 14. Cassie Bernal, 17. Isaiah Scholes, 18. Matthew Kechter, 16. Lauren Townsend, 18. John Tomlin, 16.
Tomlin.
Sorry. Kelly Fleming, 16. Daniel Mauser, 15. Corey DePuter, 17. Eric Harris.
No.
Those guys don't count.
Don't say those two douchebags. Wow.
Yeah, that's sad news.
What a long episode. Probably going to be a good hour 30, maybe a little bit more than that, but not too long. But wow.
Sad stuff right there, boys. These were some troubled kids. Was it bullying? Was it just being a sociopath or a psychopath? Or what was it? The government involved, like Alex Jones says?
Right.
Well, I mean, what was the deal here, boys? How do they get these weapons? That's what I like to know.
We discussed that.
Well, just
already.
one of them.
Well, a couple of them.
Just the shotgun,
Tech 9.
But what about the
carbine rifle?
Right.
Who knows? I've read this story and read about this numerous times, but every time it still is like, wow, this shit crazy stuff. When you hear it, it's way more crazier when you read it and it's on paper. You're looking at like the stuff that's happening. Like it's crazy.
Nuts. I was 16.
I was 9. No, I was 12, 11. Wait, I was 12. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Yep.
I was these kids' age.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, that's gonna do it for us. Big long episode and kind of
And I remember like
trained.
we didn't have fire drills. I mean, we did, but we had bomb drills when I was in high school.
Maybe after this, but I never had
Right. There was bomb drills all over the damn place.
Never had bomb drills at all.
Arthur Hill used to have them all the time.
Crazy stuff. But keeps happening, and I'm sure by the time this comes out, we'll hear of another one in a couple months here. But
I don't know if this one is. I haven't really dug into this to see if there's any connection with FBI or government, but I can honestly say, well, I don't know about honestly, but I can say
I think this is one of the only shootings, or at least a lot of the major ones that aren't like
questionable.
Well, we know that they should have searched the kid's house and they knew about him a little bit.
That was
before.
just poor.
That's just
decision
stupid
making
shit,
there.
right?
Yeah.
But other than like them being trained by the FBI to do it or shit like that, I don't think so. But I don't think so.
Which I think is the case in some.
Of course,
but not this one.
You could just don't say the SH school, or else you end up like Alex Jones. But that being said, we're gonna roll out of this episode hour and 40 minutes probably. But
that one,
well, check out our other show, Battles of the American Civil War, where we are working our way up to the second Battle of Bull Run or Manassas.
Oh, the Battle of Manassas.
And we're going at battle by battle until we reach the end of the war. We're, like I said, in the middle of 1862 right now and working our way through all the battles. Also, we do another show called This Week in Sports History, where, as that title suggests, we go through this week in sports history. Anything from home run records, goal records, football records. Couldn't think of the word, but now it's touchdown records and anything else in between there. So look up Bang Dang Network on the old internet and you'll see that and a couple other shows that we do over there. For now, we'll be back next week for probably we got a lot of stuff. We got like 26 more episodes before we even make it to the Mafia guys. So just hold tight. We're getting there. We'll get there surely, whatever that means. We'll be back next week for another episode of Outlaws, Gunslingers, World Mouth Michiganders with